Alright, we're almost finished with this tank. In this lecture we're going to be unwrapping the fenders and the tracks, and I'm going to use two different techniques to get this done. So one of them is going to be the unwrapping by marking seams, and the other method is a follow active quads, but I'm going to have to put a little bit of a twist on it to be able to get it to work. And I think you'll see exactly what I'm talking about when we actually start unwrapping the tracks. We're going to use follow active quads, but since there's two of them, we need to make sure that we follow the exact steps to keep the islands the same size. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by selecting just the fenders, link selecting them, and hiding everything else. This object is a little bit different than what we've been working on. It has a top and a bottom island. We're basically going to be splitting this whole object in half. So let me use my edge selection and give you an idea what I'm talking about. The entire perimeter here is going to be the breaking point that separates the top island from the bottom island. So let's mark that as a seam for starters. Now let's work on the top island. So this section right here, I'm going to treat this as if it was the front of my cardboard box and start marking seams around the edges. So you can see this side here is very irregular, and this side is pretty much all in a row, a nice column of rectangles. So this is going to be treated as our side. So if this is the front, that means that this is a fold and this is a fold. So obviously this must be a seam. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those first. Same thing on both sides. And don't forget the other fender. Okay, with all of those corner edges selected, let's go ahead and mark them as a seam. And I think that's all we really need to do for the top islands. Let's go ahead and redirect our attention towards the bottom. Same exact rule. This is going to be the front of our cardboard box. So we're going to want to follow along the edge of this irregular side right here. This is going to be a fold. And basically it's going to outline this irregular pattern right here, all the way up to the corner. We'll do the same thing on all four corners. Okay, with all 8 corner edges selected, I'm going to go ahead and mark those all as a seam. Let's turn this thing right side up, jump over to our UV editing window, select all, and unwrap this. Looks pretty good. Nice checkerboarding pattern, and everything's nice and clean and ready to paint on. Only thing I'm going to do is basically stack these islands together using my vertex snapping. So I'm just going to grab this and snap it right into place up there, and same thing over here. I'm going to turn vertex snapping off again, loop select this island, both of those islands I should say, and rotate it 90 degrees, and we want to go and detect the directionality of these things. So I'm just going to grab that, move it along some of these letters and numbers so that I can see things a little bit clearer. So those are correct. And I think this is upside down. You want it to roll over and be in the same direction. So one of these is upside down. It's probably not this one, but this one. So let's rotate this 180. So now it's actually going in the right direction. I'm going to grab that and move it over here for the time being. Put this back on UV grid. And I think we're done with these fenders. So all I really need to do is just move them out of the way. So let me just temporarily move them over here. I can't remember where everything else was. So okay, I think I'm just going to put it up here for now. Let's go back to the default window and select our tracks. Hide everything else. Okay, so all I really need to do is create a seam so that the follow active quads can do the rest. I'm going to put the seam right here in the middle on the inside of that little edge. You can see if I zoom in, this is going to be undetectable. There's no way you would ever be able to see that seam. Same thing on both sides. Make sure that it's the same one as well. So Yeah, that lines up perfectly. Go ahead and mark seams. Now I'm going to use my face selection tool and select this face, link select the rest, and jump over to our UV editing window. I have to do the exact same thing on both sides, so I have to remember everything. So if I do any scaling, I'm going to have to use snapping, and I'm going to have to either write down or remember the number, okay? So the first thing I want to do is reset. And then let's go ahead and do a follow active quads. I'm not sure if it looks okay, so I'm going to go ahead and choose the, well, it already has the UV grid. I need to pack the islands to be able to see. Okay, that's a start. I think I'll go to top view, and I basically need to make this straighter, okay? So I'm going to scale on the X, and I'm going to hold control to kind of iron this out. By holding it on control, I'll be able to look down here and see how much I scaled it to get it to the square. Okay, so I'm scaling it to 0.3. I can remember that number. Let's go ahead and pack islands again, and it'll fill that whole space in. Now let's move our direction over to the other track and link select on that. And let's see, probably swing this around and do the same exact thing. So reset, follow active quads, select all, pack islands, scale on the X to 0.3, and then pack islands again. Should be exactly the same as the other one. So if I select all, they're probably going to be in the same space. Let's check and see if the color grid lines up. And actually it does. Everything's perfect. If this is not already snapped perfectly in place, I'll probably want to go and vertex snap it. But it looks like it's right on. Because I followed everything procedurally the same exact way, it produced the same exact results. So let's select all and scale this down and unhide everything else and just move this to another area that's not interfering with anything else. I'll put it right over here for now. Back to my default window, and what's left. So in the next lecture, we're going to be focusing on the wheels here. So let me link select those. Also this thing in the background, I don't know what you call it, but that backing plate. And we're going to do both sides, of course. So let me just select that. This is what we want to focus on next. So if you haven't already, go ahead and unwrap that. And when you're done, we'll compare notes in the next one. I'll see you then.